Okay, this is the last 4 days of Cerul's 25% off all products for new customers. Just click the link below, then use the code SAVE25% at checkout. Good afternoon. I'm still reporting on the coup. In the early morning hours on Tuesday, March 26th, a 984-foot-long container ship, the Singapore-registered Dali, embarked out into the Patapsco River from the port of Baltimore and headed for the open waters of the Chesapeake Bay. Destination, Sri Lanka. The rain-swollen river helped the ship up to a speed of about 8 miles per hour. Just as it was about to go under the Francis Scott Key Bridge, named after the author of our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, the ship's power went out. It only took 10 seconds for the emergency backup generator to kick in, as shown by the black smoke suddenly belching out of the ship's smokestack. But that was long enough for the huge vessel to begin to veer to the right. 10 seconds would be a reasonable recovery time for a whole ship backup generator on an ocean-going vessel. But with the ship trying to navigate through a tight passage in relatively fast-moving waters at 1:30 in the morning, well, that was not good. Then, after only 8 seconds of restored power, a second blackout. This time it took only 4 seconds for power to be fully restored, but by then it was way too late. Although the ship begins to turn away from one of the bridge's main pillars, after 10 more seconds it slams into it, resulting in a spectacular collapse of the entire main span in only an additional 4 seconds. So, from the first blackout to the crash was exactly 32 seconds. That's not much time to do anything with a ship of that size. And this was with the presence, according to reports, of 2 harbor pilots to get the ship safely out to sea. The job of the harbor pilot is one of the most dangerous jobs in the maritime industry. According to one report, they have a 1 in 20 chance of dying on the job. The biggest risks come from when they must descend as many as 40 steps down to the water and jump back into their waiting speedboat, which is usually a moving target, then return to the harbor facility as the big ship goes on to its destination. That's why harbor pilots are among the highest paid blue-collar jobs, raking in upwards of $400,000 per year. As a report in News Nation Now put it, pilots risk falling in the water, getting run over by the large vessels, and getting trapped between the speedboat and the container ship. While pilots are experts at steering ships into port, they aren't immune to whole ship accidents. If a ship loses power or suffers a mechanical failure and is moving too fast to drop anchor, there's little a pilot can do to prevent an accident. Here are my remaining questions. Early reports were that the crew was able to drop the anchor. How were they able to drop the anchor within the 32 seconds shown on the film? Impossible, unless the power had been flickering on and off long before the ship came into view of the camera. Fortunately, a timeline just released by the NTSB today, Thursday, clears some of this up. The harbor pilot ordered the ship's port anchor to be dropped at 1:27 and 4 seconds a.m., some 2.5 minutes before impact with the bridge. 20 seconds later, he issued a Mayday radio call over the VHF radio that the ship had lost power and was approaching the bridge. Transit Authority cops picked up the Mayday and quickly closed off both sides of the bridge, because both sides had officers already on the scene. Why were they already there? Don't know. 1:29, that's about 2 minutes later, the ship hit the bridge. It's a rather short amount of time to get out of one's car and halt traffic, but that's what we have from authorities. Fortunately, there is a reliable way to check on the speed of the film. According to Wikipedia, the clearance under the Francis Scott Key Bridge was 185 feet. Using rate of acceleration tables easily available on the internet, it takes an object 3.4 seconds to fall 185 feet. However, the film we're working with shows it hitting the water in 1.84 seconds. So the film has been sped up by about 2x. There's nothing nefarious about that. Video people just want things to go by as quickly as possible. So without getting into the weeds too much, the timeline doesn't seem to match the 2x version of the best crash film. And doubling the amount of time doesn't help enough to answer all questions, but that's all we have. So we'll just have to wait. Here's General Mike Flynn's take on the destruction of Baltimore's Key Bridge.
Can we take the idea that this was a terrorist attack off the table? And absolutely, we cannot do that. And, I mean, the jury is going to be out for a while. This is not this attack in Russia. The Russians are now saying that the UK and the US were behind the attack in Moscow. And then all of a sudden we have this event here now. And this is not only a massive commercial disaster, but this is a military and a national security disaster, because the Baltimore Harbor is a place where there was an awful lot of military activities, and it's a transit point for many, many different types of functions and capabilities that the United States government uses, right? So this is bad. We cannot take off the table anything right now. I understand it's a Singapore flag vessel. We'll have to see what that means. Somebody said to me this morning, well, the FBI ought to immediately get involved here. And I was like, no, they shouldn't. I mean, the FBI is not the best to investigate this right now. There are other maritime agencies and activities that we have that are very professional.
Generally, I agree with General Flynn. Until we have the results of a thorough investigation, which will take 2 years, you can't take terrorism off the table. And the main reason we can't take it off the table is that we can't trust Biden. He will do everything he can do to not alert the American people of danger dead ahead. Those who are in the know now believe that we are effectively at war with China right now. The bad guys have flooded the U.S. already through Biden's wide-open border. The Chinese army is already here. According to General Flynn's estimates, as many as 100,000 military-aged Chinese men have crossed into California alone. And that's not counting the Iranians and other terrorists planning to fully destroy this nation and install a Chi-Com dictatorship, if they haven't done so already, before Trump can take the helm once again. So although I'm currently leaning towards the Baltimore shipwreck being a legitimate accident and not a terrorist job, anything could happen from this point. I see the crew as desperately trying to do everything they could do to turn the ship back on course after at least 2 power failures and maybe more. There just wasn't enough time to avoid the bridge in the rain-swollen water. But until Trump is returned to office, we will never know the truth. I'm still reporting from just outside the citadel of world freedom. Good day.